Today's interview is with Rodney Robinson. Now, with a name like that, I always joke he should have been a boxer or a wrestler, right? It's a great name. He talks about how he's just starting out, but he's had some success already and kind of his goals and aspirations from here, what he wants to kind of do next. So, really good guy, super smart guy, super cool guy. Really enjoyed the interview. As always, like and subscribe on Wrestling with Real Estate, the WWRE podcast. Please give me a 5-star rating and write a review, of course, if you feel it's worthy. And yeah, I'm offering the opportunity, not the opportunity, I'm interested in having the opportunity to talk to you guys, people who are interested in real estate. So anyone out there who wants to know more about real estate, maybe they've just come across this channel, maybe come across real estate investing, or maybe someone more experienced. I just love talking about real estate. I would love to hear about your goals, hear about you personally, and hear about what you're hoping to achieve from real estate. So there'll be a link in the description below, or go to wrestlingwithrealestate.com and sign up there. So enjoy today's interview with Rodney Robinson. Hello and welcome to Wrestling with Real Estate, where we look to chokeslam all your real estate problems. I'm your host, former WWE wrestler and now Cirque du Soleil performer, and of course, multifamily real estate investor, Barri Griffiths. Now today we're joined by Rodney Robinson. How are you doing, Rodney?
Great, Barry. Thanks for having me.
That's a great name, by the way. You almost sound like that's like a boxer's name. I can see that being a.
It does. It does. I should really get in shape, so I'm ready.
You look ready to me. You're ready for today's interview, so I believe that.
That means a lot. Thanks.
So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you now, and about what you're currently focusing on?
Yeah, I'm just to tell you who I am. I'm a husband. I'm a dad. My wife and I have 4 children. We live in Melbourne, Florida, and I've been into real estate investing in my head for years. I actually bought my first rental property, and I can't believe it was only a year and a half ago, but that was in maybe May 2019. We bought our first rental property. Now we're at 2 single-family rentals. I self-manage them, and I'm looking to get into multifamily. In this journey, I've been able to help others and just give them a little bit of insight based upon my years of studying and then my actual experience in real estate. So looking forward to just diving in and sharing some of my experience with you guys.
Cool. So what do you do as a job? What is you have a W-2 job, right? What do you?
I do have a W-2 job, and I've stayed in the same field since I left college. And it's very interesting because I had to find my passion in that job, because I learned in 2013 that real estate is my passion. Okay. But my W-2 job is I'm a senior manager in supply chain at an aerospace and defense company here in Melbourne, Florida. So I lead people, and there's a lot of presentation, there's a lot of leadership, and just coaching. And I've been recalling those specific skill sets and how that helps me in real estate, and how what I'm learning in real estate helps me encourage others on my team to be the best that they can be.
Yeah. I think, I was going to ask you about how those skills are transferable, but it's quite obvious, as believe it or not, anyone who's watching this who haven't invested yet, as a real estate investor, you've got to be somewhat of a leader, right? You're leading teams, you're leading contractors, you're leading property managers, you're leading lenders, you're leading real estate agents, you're leading investors. You have to be a leader, right? And a leader doesn't have to be someone who's bossing everyone around and shouting.
Yep.
Leaders leads by example, and just makes life easier for other people by setting standards and letting people know what they expect. So I think it's cool that you do that, and I think a lot of those skills that you have are definitely very, very transferable. So it's not.
Thank you.
No wonder that you've been a success so far. So let's go a little bit further into your past. You sent me your bio beforehand, and you were saying that at one point you were worked as in leasing with student rentals, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm in Florida. I went to college at the University of Central Florida. And at the time, UCF was getting ready to be the second largest student housing property. I don't know where it is now, but it was around 50,000 students. I got a complaint from the property management company, and it was my roommate, just noise or something. So I went in there and I talked to the property manager, or the manager at the time, basically ratted out my roommate and said, hey, by the way, I submitted my resume, and she hired me on the spot, long story short. So not realizing at the time how pivotal that was going to be for me and that experience, I just transitioned into a job as a part-time leasing agent while being a full-time student. So during that time, I learned how to put together leases. I learned how to talk through students and their parents, because it's student housing, about issues and resolve those issues. I learned how to do showings. I learned how to answer the phone and provide the best customer service, because we had a lot of competition, as you can imagine, in the top student housing, one of the top student housing communities in the whole nation. So at the time, I felt like I must be the best in the whole nation. We did shops, so we shopped other competitors, and now that place, it's just another apartment complex, because there's so much growth in that area. So I did learn a lot about competition. We thought we were on top, and in retrospect, there were certain issues that happened with the area that gave it some bad publicity. There were other brand new Class A apartments just showing up in the area. And I learned, and especially in retrospect, that competition is very important. Providing the best customer service is key, and making sure you understand what's out there, what others have to offer, is going to make you, can help you be successful as a property manager, and also a real estate investor, or anywhere, anytime, anything in your life.
Yeah. I was, as you mentioned, you're self-managing your single-family properties earlier. I was like, oh, that's a little, not everyone disagree with that, but with your history, it makes perfect sense, right? It's a walk in the park, I'm sure, for you, compared to,
It's a walk in the park, but it's also, they're going to be, basically on my single-family rentals, I spend maybe an hour, 2 hours a month on them. And I'll tell you why. So number one, I do have some experience, but the experience is what taught me. Now, what I can tell others is what's going to help them. You have to screen really well, and that's going to be the number one determinant of the type of trouble you have, or the ease you have with your property. The right tenant, in my opinion, others can share what their thoughts are. The right tenant is going to be the number one determinant of your real estate experience. If you buy the right property in a good market, then even having the wrong tenant is going to destroy it. So going to destroy your experience, you'll be out the game forever. And I'm talking particularly about single family homes. With multifamilies, you have, less exposure to one particular, less of an impact if one particular tenant ruins it for you. But still, if your practice of screening altogether is off, then you could still have the same issues. But yes, because of my experience in leasing, I was confident that I could do this myself. A lot of times with your first single family home, you're going to decide whether you want to get pay 10% for property management, or do it yourself. My plan was, I'll budget for property management. If this whole, leasing thing, or this whole property self-managing thing doesn't work out, then I'll work with someone else. But the thing is, I'm still going to have to manage the property manager. There's still going to be someone that has to be vetted to live in my property. So I wanted to make sure I did a good job of doing that. I'll go back briefly. My wife and I met while in student housing. She was at a competitor. So that was pretty cool. And she reminded me of some of the things we did back in the day. It was only like 2 years of working at student housing. And so going back, now we're married. We had just had our third and fourth child, twins, in 2019. We bought this single family house. We said we're going to self-manage this thing. I made some mistakes, but thankfully they were before the lease was signed. So it's okay to make mistakes, but make sure that when you have that lease being signed by your new tenants, that you're confident that they're the right person. Doing that upfront work is going to make it much easier. Setting those expectations, working with the right people, is going to make it that much easier. It was a year ago. They just renewed their lease just a few months ago. So things seem to be working and moving in the right direction.
Good. Yeah, that's a lot of great information that you talked about there. Screening for sure is massive. It's a lot of people, I think, when they have a vacancy with their property, especially, mom and pop owners, people who maybe own one or two properties, and, are not that familiar with being an owner or being a landlord and running these properties more like a business, is that, I've got to get someone in. I'm losing money.
Yep.
I'm losing money. But I think what I tell people all the time is that it's better for that unit to sit empty. It's better for you to pay whatever cost is associated with having that unit vacant and get a bad tenant in there, because that'll cost you 10 times as much.
Yep.
They'll pass the unit, they won't pay anything. You'll have to evict them. It's
painful, and then you never want to do real estate again.
Yeah. You went a little funny there for a second, but
Okay.
No, it's all good. Yeah, no, and that's another even bigger cost, right? That's such a good point, that if you have a horror tenant at your first deal, you might not do a second or third deal, and you might get out of real estate and think that that's how real estate works, which it's not the case at all. But that could cost you millions of dollars over the course of your investing career, and could cost you financial freedom, time with your family. That you can't put a price on that. So that is such a good point. So, make sure you screen people. If you're going to self-manage to save that 10%, which in the end of the day, when you pay that 10%, it's actually, a lot of times it can be worth it, because, 10% of my rent is going to this, but the property management, there's so much more than you think. They know the laws to start off with, that then you don't have to learn it. They know how to screen tenants, hopefully.
Very true.
I'm saying hopefully.
Very true.
This is talking about a property management company, right? They're
Right.
going to do that work for you, right? They're going to do any. They have a team in place as well. So any work that needs to be done, any renovation work, any handyman work that needs to be done, they usually have a team in place, and they can take care of that. So it gives you time to scale. It gives you peace of mind.
Yep.
I think so many people are thinking, I need to save that 10%. I need to save that 10%. Now, if you're someone like yourself, it makes absolute all the sense in the world to do it, because also then you get in and have that experience of doing single family. It's not quite the same as student housing, but and now going forward, what to look for. If you get a property management company, if something isn't right, if they're not doing what they're supposed to. And I think something else that you said that is important for people to realize is, when you're analyzing these deals, you should always budget for property management, whether you're going to self-manage it or not. You don't know what's going to happen in 6 months' time.
Exactly.
There might be a reason you need to leave the country, or you need to, I don't know, go do something that you can't be there to manage the property. Plus, if you're going to scale and you have, ambitions to turn this into a career, you don't want to be managing 100 properties. You want someone else to do it, so you can focus on the stuff that's going to really make you the money, right? Again, It goes back to that 10%, 8 to 10%, right? What is that costing you? Is that costing you the opportunity of growing and getting more rentals and creating that even bigger amount of cash flow, And I think that sometimes gets missed, and people, especially starting out, kind of miss that.
It does. And if you're going the self-managing route strictly because you want to avoid that expense, it's probably not the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm at a point personally where now I plan to grow the portfolio. I've done it myself. I'll have to manage a property manager the same way that I manage our tenants.
Mm-hmm.
So the same skills required to manage your tenants are required to manage the property manager. So think about teamwork, think about leadership, because in any case, you're growing a business, whether you're a passive investor or you're someone who's actively involved. So you have to work well with others and set those expectations, whether it's a tenant or a property manager.
Yeah, so true. So yeah, thanks for bringing that to light, because I'm sure that'll help some people, people who have maybe just venturing in it or thinking about venturing into it. Don't let any of this stop you. Just get in there, get in there and do it, but just know what you're doing as well. So I'm interested to go a little bit back to the student housing just quickly. Do you have any horror stories to share with us about the conditions of some properties? I bet you a ton, right? Maybe a couple that you can think of off the top of your head.
Okay, I have one. You just reminded me. I probably hadn't thought of this one in years, but you said horror stories. I was called by this was when I was working there at the time. It was maybe 11 o'clock at night. They said, Rodney, do you know what's going on? I wasn't the manager, but they wanted me to go out there and see what's going on. So there was a fire in one of the buildings.
Okay.
I think someone must have left something on the stove, and it caused some sprinklers to go off, and there was a whole bunch of water damage. Long story short, after a night of chaos, there was about $100,000 worth of damage to one of the buildings on the property. I felt bad for the tenant because at the time I wasn't thinking like a landlord. I wasn't thinking like a property manager. I was a student. You know, when I found out this person didn't have renter's insurance and she was on the hook for that type of money, I was like, man, she's messed up for a long time.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. But now, you know, in retrospect, you think about ownership and property management, you know, having these types of things, having a larger population of people, and specifically the student housing students, presents those types of risks. So, you know, making sure that you're doing some really good screening, the property management companies hopefully are doing some thorough background checks. I could tell another example there. You know, maybe on one or two occasions, one of the leasing agents failed to do a background check. You know, it's supposed to be standard process, but they didn't do a good, either they missed something when they overlooked it, when they looked over it, or they just didn't do it and it wasn't in the file. And you might have a guy come in and you know, there's violent behavior. So you know, he's had a felony background and no one even knew about it. It's a bad look for the management team, and it's a risk for owners, people who are trusting the management team to manage the property. I think the lesson here is, like I was saying, recognizing the risks, especially in student housing when you have students who may not behave in the same way that adults who have been out of college have a different routine do. You might have a high risk of challenges, damage, things like that. And then on top of that, there's a lot more wear and tear on the units because people are going in and coming out just about every year. You know, in my case, I lived in that student housing property for 4 years. I moved for different reasons. Maybe I wanted a smaller unit, you know, meaning I had lesser roommates because they were individually leased. I moved like 3 of the 4 years. So it's a lot on a property.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't want to focus too much on student housing, but it interests me how you screen those students, because it's a lot different to, you know, screening a 35-year-old for a rental, right? They don't have they might not have any credit history whatsoever. They might not have bad credit history.
That's true.
You know, how do you screen a tenant for that? How do you know they're a good fit?
So you screen the student, and more than you would believe, you will sometimes find certain background history even in a student population. But we also had guarantors sign with those students. So an adult that would say that, you know, in the event the student doesn't pay, I will pay. So we did some vetting with that guarantor as well to make sure it was a solid fit and reasonable, you know, tenant for, you know, the student housing, that particular student housing complex. And that worked pretty well. Okay. Because most of the times I signed leases with those students, the guarantor was there. And the student was like looking in, you know, they're not paying as much attention. They don't care as much. It's the guarantor. Those are the people that are going to pay. Yeah. You know, you do have some students that are paying their own rent. They're a little more independent, but I'd say 80%, 85% of, you know, people walking into that leasing office to sign a lease were parents with their students.
Cool, yeah. So you said that you found real estate investing in 2013, right? The actual investing aspect of it. But it was a year and a half ago that you bought your first property.
Yes.
Thinking back, why do you think, what held you back from investing?
I'll tell you. That's a good question. 2013, I was in my job. I was getting ready to start my MBA, and I read Bigger Pockets free book. I think it was the ultimate guide to real estate investing. And I went out into the kitchen. I told my wife, I'm like, I'm not I'm not doing this MBA program. I'm going to invest in real estate. I heard so many hints and little, reminders from other people about real estate and why I should do real estate. Someone once told me I should get into property management or I should have rental properties. Just, it was all over the place. I was not in a place at the time. So when we first got married in 2012, we had student loan debt. We had things to just clear up. So and then we had children and things like that. We had our first daughter in 2013. And we had our son in 2015. We were growing. I think our specific story was a little bit different from others. My 20s felt like a lot of people's 30s because we were building a family. And I think we've and many people listening, they may be in the same place. Maybe they're in a stable place now. But we were building a family, and real estate was something that I was not, to be honest, intentional about until 2019. I had had enough. I had had enough of the delays. We paid off our student loans in 2016. We were debt free in 2016. Just bad debt, the stuff that holds you down, that weighs so many Americans down. And we bought a house. And I say that we got started in 2019, but that single family that we bought for our family in 2016, the intent was when we moved out, but that would be our rental property. In my head, I thought it would be our first rental property. It ended up being our second rental property a few months ago, because we bought our first rental property in 2019 in July. It was just something. I was listening to Bigger Pockets, and Brandon Turner was talking about goal setting. He's very good at that. And he said that, if you're not putting dates and breaking down your goals into actionable steps, then you're not going to get where you want to be. Yeah. So I wrote down my goals and I presented them to my wife. I said, we have to do something. Like, we have to buy a single family. Even if it doesn't work out, we have to. I was scared. She was nervous. We did it. We pulled money out of our 401k. We bought this place. We did some fixing up to it. We rented it out. Now it's a beautiful place. The value's increased. Long story short, we got tenants in there, and it's cash flowing very well. But if I can go back, would I do anything differently? I think maybe the story would have been the same. Perhaps the timeline would have been the same. But I think I should have taken those actionable steps by first identifying them. Instead of saying, someday I'll get into real estate, I needed to say, by 2017, I will have my first property, and this is what I'm going to do to get there. So I've been working on goal setting. You can actually get to a very complacent place when financially you feel like you're okay. When you have a full-time job, when you have a nice car, when you live in a good neighborhood, and you're playing the part very well, but even your bank account looks good, even your 401k looks good. But I realized that I was being complacent after we had overcome some of those growing pains of starting a marriage and trying to make it work and getting a good job and get promotions and things like that. Now I'm hungrier than I was.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that as well. It's not easy always to admit to these things, because, I'll be honest, I did the same thing. I've been maybe not quite as long a timeline, but, the past few years, I haven't taken as much action as I would have liked, because same situation. I had a job I loved, I had a great wife, I had a great life, and everything was going in the right direction, right? So what did I feel like a lot of times when I hear real estate stories and success stories, it comes from desperation and need, and you know what I mean? Yep. They have no choice, but it's right. Just then I had a choice. It wasn't that I needed to do real estate. It was just something that I want to do because I love it, but also, being in the industry that I'm in, you need a plan B. So
exactly.
And also, you want to create a situation where we both have. I have one kid, you have four. I don't know how you do it, but
I don't either.
That you want to be able to create that life choice. If you want at some point that you can just focus on being with them, okay, have your real estate career as well, but you don't have to go to work today for 8 hours. Like,
exactly.
Be at home with them, or if they want to take a trip to Europe or do whatever, that you have that, and I think that's where the real value is, right? It's not in that 401k or in the car or in the house. It's that having that value to do what you want and to control your life, I think.
Exactly. That's good. Actually, that's what made me hungry. Okay. So it was, let's say, March 2018. we found out we were having twins. We thought we were going to have our third child. So we had twins December 2019, a boy and a girl. And I started thinking differently. I was like, the value of my time was so much greater than it used to be. The risk of the impact of a financial, struggle would be greater, because now 5 people are depending upon one source of income. So people thought it was crazy in May or, March or April or May 2019, when I told them we're buying a rental property. They're like, you just had twins. I said, you don't understand. It's because I just had twins that I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So I think I found the why. I think before I always wanted to just be financially okay. But then when you have people that depend on you, and you start thinking about your future and your children's future, you start realizing how important this mission is of wealth. And it's not just for the sake of making money. It's for the sake of legacy or your purpose or your passion or whatever it is that you're driving towards. And I think that's what happened for me.
That's cool. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that can be a lesson for a lot of people. And I really like what you said, that it's because, depends what your mindset is and how you see things, Rick. I think a lot of people would be the thought, well, you just had twins, why are you buying a rental property? But no, it's the complete opposite, right? I see it like you see it. It's because you have twins is why you have to, because you're creating wealth.
Oh yeah.
You're trying to create that financial freedom. It's because that's why you have to do it, because it's going to provide a better life for your family. But I think other people see the risks involved with them. There's risk. Of course there's risk. Yep. But you know what there's risk in as well? Living your life the same way and not living your dream, not living to your full potential. Isn't that a bigger risk, to living an average life?
That's it.
When you have the option to live an amazing life, it's there for every single one of us, right? Every single one of us has that option to live this amazing life. And it's way more risky to me than to not live that life than to go out and buy rental properties or invest in real estate or whatever you
Exactly. Do. I agree. I think that people don't recognize the risk of their job. Well, maybe now they do with COVID. There are people very close to us that have been impacted, that have lost their jobs. And I'm trying not to spread fear. I hope that people listening can do what they love every day. If they love working a full-time job, and still decide to grow wealth in real estate, because there are many ways that you can do that. There are many ways. You don't have to do what I did. But real estate is definitely a means that everyone should consider in their, to have in their portfolio, their wealth portfolio. And me personally, I took out of my 401k to get started. Number one, because I had to do my first deal. Secondly, because I realized that I understand real estate after some time of studying better than I understand my 401k. I knew that real estate was just as much of a retirement plan for me as a 401k. So I did the math. It made more sense for me to do that. Not on day one, with the taxes and things like that, but it made more sense for me to get started. So hopefully people listening recognize that, it will be uncomfortable getting started. And then secondly, there are many ways that you can grow wealth in real estate. You can do what you love every day while growing wealth in real estate.
Yeah. On that point, as you talk to maybe there's people listening today that are scared to jump in. They want to do their due deal. They've been researching. They believe in real estate, but they're kind of scared, and they're like, well, toilets are going to break at 1 a.m. What if this happens? What if that happens? Maybe talk to someone like that, as someone who, maybe had some of these fears yourself. What would you say to them, and how could you get past that hump?
Yeah, this is where I get really worked up, because Brandon Turner said something very similar. He's like, I have never had someone call me at 1 a.m. about a toilet. And I've only been, managing these single families for a year and a half or a year. No one's called me about a toilet. I haven't stepped foot in the house except to do an inspection and re-sign a lease. There are myths, and my advice for people is to not listen to people that haven't done it or have not done it correctly. Work with people, learn from people who have done it, because someone said it, why listen to the majority when you don't want to be like the majority? And, best wishes for them. But the majority, they're fearful. I wrote a very similar blog post about the number one cause of horror stories in real estate. I said earlier, my belief is bad screening. That particular example is me learning from what people told me, validating what mistakes they made, or if they had done their research and studied, and then taking that to the people who are doing well and learning what they're doing well. But even outside of that, those things, you know, if you're a passive investor and you're investing in real estate with, you know, you're using your resources, but you're not using your time, you don't have to deal with that. Other people can deal with that for you. I think that's a lesser known aspect of real estate investing to probably most people. It's still a hidden game. It's a game that people don't even know is being played right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. You know, you talk to a lot of people and you tell them, wait, I can invest in a large apartment complex. I just give up the capital. Someone else does all the work. I can get a 7, 8, 9% return every year on my money. Plus I enjoy whatever appreciation that property gets, and I get tax benefits and the debt pay down. And I don't have, all I have to do is make sure that money's in my bank account or in the mail every month. That's all I have to do. And people don't believe it, but it's you know, we both know that, but it's absolutely true. It's something that I think is a great option for people as a beginner, right? You can invest passively in someone else's deal, be that in a large syndication, or you just find someone in your local market that's doing what you, maybe it might be a flip that you're interested. You find a successful flipper, you say, hey, I have this money, I'm going to put up 50%. I'm going to take 50%. You're going to take 50%. You're going to do the work, and you're going to teach me. Who's going to say no to that, right? No one in the right mind can do that, right? Or
as long as you're working with the right person, you know, it's a win. Your objectives are met. That person's objectives are met, and you don't have to stop doing what you love every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's cool. And I think I want to hop back onto what you started saying there to start off with as well, is because I hear it all the time, is that don't let people that aren't doing it stop people that want to do it, right? You'll have I'm sure you'll have pushback from a lot of people, from family members, from friends. Oh, real estate is risky. Oh, my friend lost their property. Oh, this happened, blah, blah, blah happened. Yes, of course there's risk to it, right? Because we talked about earlier, but if you really want to create financial freedom, and it's about that decision, right? Once you make that decision, I'm sure you kind of sounded like you came to the decision, right? You fed up, you tired of not doing it. So you made that decision, right? I'm doing this. And once you get to that point of deciding that you're doing it, block out everything else that's negative. You don't need to hear it. Let them say it, but you got 2 ears for a reason, right? One to go in and the other for it to come right out the other side. And just ignore that and do what you know you can do. Focus, learn from others, apply yourself, and take action, man. It's just,
that's it. That's perfect.
And I'm passionate about this as well, because I get so frustrated when people are negative about real estate. Yes, there's risks. Yes, there's stuff that goes wrong. There's plenty of stuff that goes wrong. But I always tell myself, when stuff goes wrong, I would rather be in real estate and be investing in real estate and have this happen and have these problems. These are great problems to have. Right? These are great. The tenants hasn't paid the rent this month. The tenants trashed the unit. Great. I'd rather he didn't, but I'm in real estate. I'm where I want to be. I'm where I need to be, and I'm happy about that. You know,
you're living your dream.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. You know, I've had conversations where people overheard what I was doing and they smirk, or they're like, they think they're helping by telling me this horror story. And I know you said it, you know, just to re-emphasize, listen, like you said, consider that source. And you have a mentor. I have a mastermind group that I work with. Find a new group of people. I'm not saying stop, you know, have a network for certain purposes. So if you're interested in growing your wealth, get around like-minded individuals that are interested in growing their wealth. I'm sure you have a resource that people can know about, but the point is, join that group and listen to those people. I think that's going to be a big game changer for those who are dabbling with the idea and who haven't really committed to growing their wealth through real estate.
Yeah. What is the saying? You are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself by, right? But the great thing is now, I think, right, with platforms like what I'm trying to share and podcasts and whatever, you don't necessarily always have to have those people in your life, right? It's great if you can, But if you
Yep.
have a podcast and yet you're listening to every day, so say you pick whatever podcast it is that you like, that is on your niche. If you listen to that on the way to work and on the way home from work every day, well, you're connecting with that person
Oh yeah,
every day. That person is in your network, right? You're hearing what he's saying, you're hearing what he's interviewing. He's in your network. Now it's even better if you can connect personally with people that are doing what you want to be doing, but you have that option. It's not as cut and dry as you have to have them in your life. You can use resources, like you said, you mentioned it all the time. Brandon Turner is an awesome resource, and Bigger Pockets an even better resource, right? Get on there, read the forums, read what people are saying. You know, these people come into your life then, you know, and then if you can grow those personal connections maybe through those platforms, it's even better, you know, and you're just going to get where you want to get so much bigger, and you're just filling your brain with that subliminal message of real estate success, growing your wealth, doing the right thing. And it's an unconscious thing then that you're focusing on this stuff. So
you're exactly right.
We went on a tangent there. I didn't know that we were going to do that, but I think it's really good stuff. And I think for anyone, you know, it's good for anyone to hear it, but I think especially for people who maybe haven't done their first deal and really want to get into it, I think, you know, that's a really good message for them to kind of get into. But let's get into the deal a little bit more, right? So I'm sure everyone's always interested in the deal. Talk to us about that first deal, what you bought about, what you bought it for, what you liked about it, what you kind of did to it, where it is now.
Yeah. So this one is, it was a single family home in a side of town. It's called Palm Bay. And it was overlooked. It was on the market for a year. And I think, you know, another investor had it. So on the surface, it could look like I bought someone else's deal. I wanted to do my first deal, and I knew this one would cash flow. So the price that we settled on was $115,000. I needed to get an residential loan for investment. So I needed a 20% down. I pulled out of my 401k and I had no problem doing it. We talked about that earlier. And that felt great. So we had a budget. I think the budget was $7K to do a few things. That includes some cosmetics. We redid the bathrooms and the kitchen. We put in butcher board block. Nothing really fancy, but something that really speaks to the type of tenant we wanted. We made sure not to overdo this place because it can't exceed the perception of the overall neighborhood. At the end of the day, it's still a C+ class neighborhood. After 25K down and let's say 8K of rehab, and 2 months later, you know, we got it rented for $1,250 a month. And my mortgage is like $695 or something like that. I still budget for expenses and things. You know, I started a tracker. I need to go back and see what my expenses were, but I really haven't spent much money on that thing. I know it seems like I'm very active. I spent a lot of time fixing that place up myself, but I had others do the same thing. And like I said, I don't step into that place. I have a handyman friend who does everything. He's professional. I have not stepped into that rental property. And the reason I share that is because I wanted my first experience to be a good one. Because if it wasn't a good one, I know who I am and I know how my wife and I are. We might be a little, you know, scarred, may not want to ever do it again. So not to say if you had your first deal and it didn't work out to stop, but do your best to make sure that it's a success, even if there's less cash flow. Don't rush, like you said, to get any tenant in. Make sure that you or your property manager does a solid job. But at the end of the day, that place cash flows, you know, maybe $400 a month, $200 if you plan for the expenses. And, you know, it's not going to make you wealthy, but it was just a good win to have under the belt, confidence builder.
Yeah. Well, I would say it's a pretty good deal. So my off the top of my head, math is not that good. So it's, you said you put 25,000 down, right? And then you spent about another 8,000 in fixing it up. So you're all in for about 33,000, and then you cash flow about 4,800 a year. So that's about well, I would say a 14.5% return.
That's pretty cool. Not counting the appreciation, because it's definitely not that that's the cherry on top when you're investing. You want to hold the asset and be paid for the asset with cash flow, but it's nice to know that it's worth something like 150, 160. It's brought back within the values of, you know, remodeled in good condition, 3 bedrooms. So that feels good.
Yeah, that's not first deal, 14.5% return. Yeah, I think that's. I think you should be very, very satisfied with what you achieved. So that's good. You said
Yeah, thank you.
You said something interesting there as well that I wanted to focus on a little bit, is that you didn't want to over improve the property. And I think as we this conversation's gone on, I think it's something good to focus on newer investors, right? A message for newer investors, and I think that's kind of where we've gone with this into, and I think that's a great place to focus. Is that someone getting into their first deal? I think I've seen it, I've heard about it a lot. Is people, okay, I bought this rental property, I'm going to put stainless steel appliances, quartz countertops, marble flooring, and they're in, like you said, a C-class property. Maybe talk a little bit about how you decided what renovation work you were going to do and what standard of work you were going to do.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I appreciate that. I think I had this vision in my head of the family that would move into the property. It was a false vision. I thought the family would look like my family. I thought they'd be higher income. I think I had some blinders on when I bought the property, and that's why real estate is so awesome. You give it enough time, it might work out just fine, even if you don't have everything figured out just right. But I began to be honest with myself really after we rented out the property, that it's a C-class neighborhood, which means it might attract people that are working really hard, to keep food on the table and things like that. When I realized that, I wanted to put the place in livable condition, and I wanted it to be nice for someone who's coming out of an apartment or coming out of a bad side of town, and they want to really appreciate the pride of having this single family home for their family. Now, recognize there are fair housing laws that you don't want to violate, all of that, but having that vision for the family that you want, whether even if you're passively investing in multifamily, you have that vision for people that are going to live in these apartments. Of course, if you're actively involved, you have that vision for people who are going to be living in your place. So when I recognized that the environment was a Class C neighborhood, I didn't want to over improve. I looked around and I said, it's a hit and miss neighborhood. Like, that house needs some work. This house is beautiful. That person's lived there for 30 years. And she's just made it very beautiful. I didn't want to make it nicer than that. That'd be more, that's not necessary. Mm-hmm. So we figure with our limited resources, we'd focus on the places that matter, the bathroom and the kitchen. So we have stainless steel appliances. It doesn't cost that much more to get stainless steel versus the white refrigerator, little things like that. And that's really what helped me realize where that value can be brought for minimal additional price.
Yeah. I think that's really cool, because I think you want to try and imagine the avatar of who's going to stay in your unit, right? If you have a small studio apartment, right, it's not going to be a family of 4 that's going to stay. Right. You want it's probably going to be someone young, single. You want to renovate the unit to that standard that that they would expect, right? Because it's important to know that, to understand that. And going back to that C-class property, if you over improve and you spend $20,000 on that unit, rent is only going to be $1,250 or whatever you're getting, $1,200, right? You're not going to get much more than that. If you put a swimming pool in the back and you put a slide from the master bedroom into the pool, right, you're not going to get much more. And it's important to understand, because you want to make it as nice as possible, but you don't want to overspend, right? Because the goal is, of course, to provide a great place for people to live. 100%. Right. That's key to what we do. It's so important to what we do, but it doesn't make sense to overspend and to spend too much money doing renovations that you're not going to get a return on. And I think, as investors, yes, we want to give people a place to live. I want to focus on that. I always focus on that, because I think sometimes the message gets lost. But we're doing this for financial freedom, right? We're getting rewarded by a monetary value, right? We're getting rewarded by the rent that we get paid and the life that we hopefully get to live. But we're doing the work, and we're providing, again, a great place to live. That's the trade-off. You provide a great place to live, you get rewarded, right? So I think it's important to understand that they don't go crazy. Know the market, know the area, know the type of property, and know the type of tenant that you want. And hopefully that will guide you into what kind of renovations you're going to do.
That's great. That's awesome. I agree.
Well, you said it better than I did, so I was just repeating what you said. I'm just stealing what you did. So cool. So this show is called Wrestling with Real Estate, right? So we're gonna get
Right.
into some wrestling themed questions. So I always say you're gonna step in the ring with me now for some
Oh,
wrestling.
that sounds
But
good.
only
I'll
for
do my
real
best.
estate, not real
Okay,
wrestling,
good.
just wrestling
All
with
right, good.
real estate. So the first question is, what would your wrestling name be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Maybe like Hot Rod or something.
I was going to say something along because you're in aerospace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot Rod. Okay, I like Hot Rod. Okay, so Hot Rod is in the ring. Every wrestler has a special move.
Okay.
What is your special move in real estate? So this is a real estate ring. Remember, real estate ring. So what is your special move in real estate?
I think my special move, and I'm diving into this now. I don't think I've really done this yet, but I think my special move is building teams.
Okay.
I try to keep the phrase simple, the mission simple, and I think building teams. What I've done in the past, what I'm doing now, how I found my friend who's really good at fixing up stuff
Mm-hmm.
to work on the single family. I think building teams would be my wrestling move, and that's how I plan to bring that value in multifamily as well.
Yeah, I think that's a massive strength to have. I think to be able to build teams, that's one of the most important components of success in multifamily, especially, as we'll touch on that later, after this part, but as you venture into multifamily, building a team, because it's all about team. You can't do everything yourself, especially, the larger you go. You buy a 100-unit apartment complex, you can't do everything yourself. So you've got to build those teams, and again, it goes back to being able to scale. If you want to do more than one deal, if you're trying to do everything yourself, you're not going to be able to go to the next deal because you're getting bogged down, right, by the stuff. You don't want to be doing the $10 an hour job, right? You want to be doing the $1,000 hour job, and whatever that is, that's finding the deals or raising the money or whatever. So
Exactly.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. What's been the biggest body slam you've taken in your real estate career?
Good questions. Good question. You've been wrestling, so I'm sure you had a few body slams in the beginning that you probably go back and you're like, that wasn't so bad, just getting started, everything feels like a body slam. The first time the tenant calls and tells you the AC is out, or the property manager, or if you're passively investing, you learn some news. That felt like a body slam, but I realized that it wasn't the ring, it wasn't the wrestling match that was the problem. It was me. I wasn't built enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I've been working on. You have to have the stomach, the temperament to remain calm when things don't always go well. I heard a few people say, let the math, erase your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
or, be a data-driven decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, you say, what's so bad about this? All right, right now the tenants are hot. Okay. All right, I have the money to pay for this. All right, but I'm not just going to pay any AC guy. Let's make sure we're methodical about this. What minimizes cost, but also the time of getting the repair done. And you don't have to be so analytical, but it's just like the processes in your mind where you ask yourself, why is this so bad? And it's when you do that, you realize this may not even be a body slam. I just might need to do some sit-ups or something.
No, but it's so true. When you start out, everything affects you so much worse.
Yeah.
I was smiling as you were saying that because I remember my first rental property, and anything that would go wrong, oh, this needs to be fixed. Oh no, it needs to be fixed. How much is that going to cost me?
Yeah.
But then and it's like $200, and you're like, oh no, $200. But it's like, soon you realize you get, you build up that tolerance level to all this kind of stuff, right? And then eventually you're like, okay, the place is burning down. It's like, okay, is everyone safe? Okay, I got insurance.
Exactly.
I'll be fine. I'll be
you
fine.
Just learn to. It becomes a part of the game, like a part of wrestling, a part of wrestling with real estate.
Yeah.
And I'm getting better. Like I said, and mentally, I've been doing this since 2013. Started in 2019, and now that I'm experiencing some things, I'm getting stronger and more built. And it's going to be a constant growth thing for anyone who's getting started.
Yeah. Very cool. That's a very cool story for everyone to kind of toughen themselves up. If you bang yourself head against the wall enough, you'll toughen up. Was there a moment that you were standing on the top rope, getting ready to jump in the real estate ring, but you were scared? What was it, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I think you highlighted pretty well that gap in between the time I made that mental commitment and when I started. I would say I was standing up there for a long time. Sometimes I forgot I was standing up there. Maybe I forgot I was in a wrestling match. Um, I realized that I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. And, you know, I'm only 2 rentals in, 2 units in, and I feel like I'm living my dream. I don't think there are regrets, but when I go back and I realize how long I was standing up there, I think, um, I think there was just a lack of intention, you know, and attention to what my goals are. So I think it wasn't necessarily a moment. I think it was just a season, a long season of standing there because of near-term concerns, you know, jobs, growing the family, and kind of like you said, and I was thinking the same thing before this conversation. It's hard either way. It's hard whether you're doing real estate or not. It's hard whether you're trying to grow your wealth through real estate or you're just trusting your job. Either way, you deal with problems, just 2 different. I think that's a more recent reminder, you know, of that season of my life.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for wrestling with real estate. That was a quick little round there.
That was great.
You did pretty good. You did pretty good. So what's next for you? What's next for you?
So, you know, I've been self-managing these single families, and I have no desire to continue buying single families. I will if it comes across, but there's a lot of time required to do that. And if I'm going to spend that time, I'm okay with the time. I want more with that time. So, you know, buying a house is one thing, but I'd like to get more units. And I decided that multifamily is the next step. I'm committed to multifamily. In fact, I'm only looking at multifamily properties. And whether it's me and a few others in partnership for some smaller multifamilies, or me working on a syndicated deal, but that is my intention. And in the same way that I was driven to get the single family home, but better because it'll be faster. That's the goal, is to, and it's what it always was. It was always the vision, multifamily. I think for people like me who work full-time jobs, you can buy a single family home, you can do the work, you can buy another one, and you can do it 10 times and realize you have too many single family homes. Or you can do it one time and you can get a multifamily with 10 units, and you can get the same amount of cash flow as you would with single family homes, but you have one roof, and that's pretty awesome. And you signed one contract. So little things like that. And that's why I'm really interested and focused on multifamily now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm all about multifamily myself. You know, I share the story all the time that my goal is to get to 40 single family homes, because I thought that's what you did, right? I never thought that you can buy an apartment complex yourself. I saw them all around me, but I never understood that people like you and me buy these things, right?
Right.
But then, so I shared my dream, you know, to get to 40 single family homes, and someone was like, "Well, have you ever thought you just buy one 40-unit apartment complex?" I was like, Wait, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, you can
awesome.
buy one 40-unit apartment complex, and you're avoiding all that scaling, and you're just going straight through it. Buy two 20 units, right? So it's like, but I think what people maybe don't understand is, like, so if you buy, let's go back to your example, 10 single family homes, right? That's 10 transactions you have to do, right? That's 10 deals you have to find. You don't just find a deal, you know, look at one deal, and then you look at 20, 30, 40 deals, right, to find that one deal. So to get that, you're looking at hundreds of deals, if not thousands, to get to that 10, right? Then then once you have these properties over, you need 10 different loans, right? So you're going to have to go to the bank 10 different times, and we all know what a painful process that can be. Then once you own these properties, if you have a handyman, that's 10 different properties he has to go. So he has to go here, has to go there, has to go all around town, right? And you alluded to it, you're likely to have one roof on this thing, right? Then you have 10 roofs on that. So it's just the economies of scale is just so much better, you know, and it's, you know,
I just want to do more with less. You know, the reason I got into real estate is for that time and that wealth. I realized that wealth is not just money, it's time. And after doing the first house, it was really the first house. I was like, I'd love to do this again. I just want more doors for it, you know? And that's why I think multifamily, it's that, like I said, it's the game that many people don't even realize is being played. and full-time employees can do what they love every day. We're not saying become a real estate investor full-time. It's you're a wealth builder. You're an astute financial steward, and this is one of those mechanisms to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here now.
Yep.
What size property are you looking to now? Anyone out there who's selling, who's and what area are you in? So just so anyone who sees this, you never know when you can get a deal, right? So maybe we can.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm in Brevard County, Florida. I'm interested in markets in Florida, but specifically, Central Florida and Brevard County. Size-wise, when we start working on syndicating deals with experience, the size, doing a larger size is the same as doing a smaller size. It'd be nice to get greater than 30 at this point in order to break into multifamily. I'm okay with less than 30, but certainly more than 5. So between 10 and 30 would be a good first deal for me. And then on top of that, if it's one of those smaller multifamilies, partnering aside from syndicating would be great. So I'm very open to the opportunities. It just has to make sense for the type of, partnership we'd be doing.
Yeah. Very cool. I love that. Hopefully someone watches this and they bring a deal and you guys.
That'd be great.
That would make me so happy. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yes.
So on that note, where can people get a hold of you? How can people get a hold of you?
So you can, my website is Rodney Robinson II. So that's the 2 I's, RodneyRobinsonII.com. I also have the same Instagram handle, and I'm pretty active there. I talk about family, real estate, just achieving your goals. And that's where you can find me. I write on my write articles routinely on my blog about real estate, getting started, multifamily, just everything we talked about just now.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the show today. You've shared a lot of great stuff. And I think, as I mentioned to earlier, I think, hopefully there's some information here today that can help people get past that first deal, right? Because for a lot of people, and I think you included, me included as well, that first deal is the hardest deal to do, right? Whether it's a single family home or 500 units, right? It's not the actual deal itself. It's that mental hurdles that are in our way and that we put there ourselves, to be honest, right? We create these scenarios in our head that, things are much worse than they really are. And once you do that first deal, it's that proof of concept. Wow.
You are spot on.
Wow. And nobody died. Nobody lost everything. Everything's fine.
It works.
Yeah. I've got this money coming in every month. Yeah. So I think hopefully we can help someone get past that hump of their first deal. And, maybe if someone gets this information, hit up Rodney and me afterwards. And, if you guys get into a first deal because of this, we would love to hear it. And if you need help getting past that first deal, reach out as well. I know I always love talking about real estate. Rodney will tell you that. I've kept him way longer than I should have today.
It's been great. Cool. It's great. It's as you do it, it becomes just a lifestyle, a passion. So it's been awesome.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me on the show, Barry.
Cool. Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun.